Can this vehicle here behind me stop the success of the Tesla Model Y? This is here the BYD Seal U. And not like in a way of sealing you off or something. Seal, the animal, and U as the letter U. It's also known as Song Plus in China because it initially started also as a hybrid. This one here, the pure EV version. So BYD does it in a way that they build the EV platform and then make a hybrid out of it. That's their direction. And the thing is really that here in this compact or mid-size SUV segment, depending on which country you have the definition on, it's a very popular segment. And the Tesla Model Y is meanwhile one of the most selling cars worldwide overall, and one of the most selling EVs, of course, then, and even the most sold vehicle in Europe overall in the year 2023. And here, the BYD Seal U is trying to attack the Tesla Model Y. Will it succeed? Does it work? How good is it? We'll tell you all about it with Thomas Nadegefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the front. Typical closed front grille design. Then the headlamps here, main headlamps on the top, split. And here is the daytime running light. This vehicle color here is a light blue, I would say, or maybe like a so-called baby blue. Not exactly a Thomas blue. This one is called Tianqing. I hope this was the correct pronunciation. It's more like sky in Chinese, and then you like a blue-greenish sky, something like that. 19-inch wheels we have here. These are also standard. And it is indeed a Tesla Model Y length. And the side profile design is not, it's not too much screaming out. It is rather a subtle design. The question is, do you like it? And the 4.79 meters or 188 inches end right here with a beautiful design in the rear. Look at that, the tail lamp signature, also with this dot design on the inside. I think that's a very clean and beautiful design. Panel gaps here might be a little bit wide, I have to say though. Also the CD value at 0.32. That is way worse than with the Tesla Model Y. So supposed to be not that efficient when you drive really fast. But we will give you a test consumption very soon in this review, which will also be super interesting. Soon also talking about then the range figure and battery size and so on. So at this moment they have two different versions. So the small battery has an acceleration figure of 9.3 seconds and the bigger battery of 9.6 seconds. Also not too quick, both just front wheel drive. So overall they have said basically nothing figure-wise on the performance side of this vehicle. What a beautiful, lovely spot here. I always love coming here. It's at the Cascais region near Lisbon in Portugal. And you see that cliff there behind the vehicle in a very far distance. This is the Cabo da Roca. It's the most western point of continental Europe, actually. Well, and getting back to our vehicle here, at the moment you have two different batteries available, 72 kilowatt hours or 87 kilowatt hours. And BYD told me that these are supposed to be the usable or net battery figures. They don't work with high buffers, so similar strategy to Tesla. Only that BYD builds the batteries themselves. That's of course a big advantage. Meanwhile, also Tesla, Model Y from the Berlin plant, is using also BYD batteries. But there is actually also a very interesting difference because Tesla has also quick charging with the BYD battery. Of course, they also offer quick charging, but at very low rates in comparison. Because the charging is 11 kilowatt AC and only 115 kilowatt DC for the small and 140 kilowatt DC for the big battery. And these give you only charging times. The charging curves are not that well done. So it's 42 minutes for the small battery, 43 minutes for the big battery, 10 to 80% state of charge. And this is, of course, like double the time you would use for a Tesla Model Y at a supercharger. Yeah, once again, strange that Tesla employs the same battery and makes it quicker. And they at BYD told me actually that they use a less cost-intensive charging mechanism here to keep the price lower of the vehicle. Then again, it's meanwhile, especially because Tesla also put the prices lower, it's not really cheaper than Tesla Model Y, So, yeah, I think in that respect a doubtful strategy. However, the battery itself is an LFP battery, lithium iron phosphate. The advantage of that one is it's supposed to be very long lasting. That is also one of their main goals. And it's also cobalt free. So far, the BYD sales success is mainly in China. Now they're pushing more and more to Europe, especially with the BYD Seal, the sedan, but they also have the Atto 3 and the Dolphin, the very small one. Here now the Seal U. I always think about the, Seal U, like, in a zipper bag or something. Yeah, sorry about that. So the Seal U, the pricing here in Germany, for example. Here in Germany, it's Portugal. Yeah, sorry. The Germans when they try to make jokes. So 42,000 euros is the price here for the BYD Seal U, the starting price, entry price for the small battery. But they say that the price for the bigger battery and higher trim, because it almost has all trim already in it, not so many options. So the price for the bigger battery, maybe like 45,000 euros or something like that, maximum, not such a high extra price, but there are also other competitors meanwhile in that price region. What kind of build quality and interior do we get for that? Key fob is not really premium-like, I would say, so rather simple. Door closing sound is very solid. That sounds nice, not bad. And then inside materials here, soft touch on the top part. Then we have this nice insert here. Also beautiful integration of the, that feels really good actually. So the build quality at the inside of the doors is actually good. Hard pictures in the lower part. I like the structure here on the inside, but however now no felt covering at the very inside door pocket. Steering wheel with real buttons, and they give you good clicking feedback as well. So that's good, and also better in comparison to Tesla, I feel, where you hardly have any buttons left. Then the seats, these is indeed animal free, so vegan material, a high grade leatherette, feels good, looks good, plush, also with this perforation and also with not only heated but also cooling function. There's also difference to the recent Seal sedan, where we actually had wrong information from BYD. So for the Seal sedan, they still use animal skin. Here for the Seal U and also for the Atto 3 and for the Dolphin, they use the more sustainable, more animal-friendly materials actually. And then here headroom with 189 or 6'2". Still some headroom left, although this is here actually a panoramic roof. And a very interesting roof here. First of all, 4 buttons on the top here, hashtag capacitive BS sadly. Then when I press them, this is here the real physical shade, and it goes really wide. So of course very important for hot days. Remember, with the fixed glass roof, Tesla Model Y customers sometimes, or Model 3 customers, have foil actually on top of their glass roofs in very hot states, for example, because it's getting too hot. And then one more press here to actually open the whole thing. And once again, a very wide opening. So hardly we see EVs nowadays which have no fixed glass roof. So I really appreciate that. And what you can also do, let's try the voice assistant. It's a little bit mixed up. We have the language set to English, but the voice assistant is still in German. Hey BYD, Glasdach schließen. There we go. I said close the glass roof, and it's actually working also with the closing function. Pretty cool. So let's listen and repeat. Glasdach schließen. Let's try one more time. Hey BYD, Sonnenrollo schließen. Like
Okay,
close this
Sichtschutz wird geschlossen.
sunblind. Listen and repeat. Sonnenrollo, sunblind. Makes sense, right? German listen for today. And there we go. So also here the voice input is reacting in a very responsive way. Cockpit overview, I think, was a very clean design. 12.3-inch digital instruments, and then either a 12.8-inch screen in the base model, or this one here is the the bigger screen, 15.6, and you can also have this like a characteristic BYD feature. I press it here on the steering wheel, this button, and then you can put this screen vertical. That might make sense, for example, when using the car internal navigation, because in navigation it's actually quite helpful. And look at that, it's really responsive, that's cool. Of course, you can see when you switch it around like this, then the GPS is turning like this. It's interesting that when you go to the CarPlay menu, actually, because it supports Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, wireless also, CarPlay at the moment with cable, but the wireless CarPlay is supposed to come as well. So when I plug it then in my smartphone, let's see here, there we go, Apple CarPlay. Wow, what a nice and big integration actually. But then when I try to switch the screen, it says rotation is not supported. Then I would need to go back to the BYD menu, and then I can do the rotation action here again.
You open CarPlay now and it's rotating.
Ah, good idea, Misha. Interesting. What? Yeah, but I think it's the way that probably Apple doesn't offer like a vertical orientation for the menu. That's probably, it would be like literally like this. Then you have to read them from here, right? Yeah, but good idea, Michelle. It's like yeah, it's always need, you know, sometimes you need 4 eyes to be aware of this kind of stuff. So here the main menu, and then all the car settings are right here. Like, you know, like the steering feedback, for example, and if you want to change the height of the head-up display, yes, this looks a little bit Tesla-alike. Others say, hey, I mean, Tesla doesn't do anything special. They could invent it on their own. Here is also interesting as for the consumption settings. It's like, you know, preview already of our consumption today. Then we can also calculate the real-world range later on. Vehicle settings here, for example, the brake assist mode. So overall is quite okay. And you see, everything is really very quick to control, very responsive. Have you seen here that the ambient lighting is kind of like, you know, there's this pulse effect going fade away and comes back again. Why not, you know, and soft plush here also with the leather red. So actually a very good build quality, I have to say. And also here, glove box, very well dampened and so on. Yeah, it's nice. And also, as I said, the seats are very comfortable. Middle console here with 2 inductive charging pads. However, they are not cooled. But it's actually working well, also very quickly. If you want to read my notes, by the way, in text form, I always put them in the video description. Then here, look at that. There's the shifting lever, and it gives such a great feedback. So the build quality of the individual things here, the drive mode selector, is just superb. It is very premium build quality. I can just stress that again. And if you compare it, here's for the regenerative braking settings. If I compare that to Tesla, the interior is actually better and also, you know, more classic interface and so on. And here, NFC, interesting. It's for the card, and then when we open it, also super well attached and a lot of space underneath. Digital instruments kept quite simple as well. Here, for example, you change the driving modes then, and also the recuperation modes then. You see in the top part where it adjusts. What's pretty cool is when you're driving, want to change the temperature here, you scroll it on the steering wheel and then you can see it in the instruments, and the same accounts for the fan speed right here. So that's the best solution actually to control the temperature and the fan speed. Head-up display is very visible and super large, even though on camera it always appears smaller than it actually is. Underneath the middle console, more storage, and that's also where you would plug in your smartphones. I really love the seats also for the comfort, definitely. The only thing is here the head restraint. When you're as tall as me, you may see that it could be a little bit higher, but since they're integrated, they look awesome with this integration, but you cannot push them higher. Let's now switch to the rear seats and see how much legroom I have actually left in here when I am also the tall driver. Let's see about that. What did she say? No idea. Then here, this is like the legroom, so there's still legroom left. Good usage of the space overall. Inside of the door in the rear, also soft touch material on the top part, also for your elbow. And then headroom, yeah, there's still headroom left, no problem. And you can also see here's the cover closed here for the panoramic roof. These lights here are not touchable. It's good comfort in the rear. So positively surprised about that. Also somewhat adaptive here, and also very good build quality. I like that. With some straps at the side, I can, by the way, also control these ones. I can also control the inclination, either laid back or more upright. This is also the way to fold the seats then for the trunk. And here in the lower part we have more USB-C chargers. Does it frunk or not? For real? Okay, well, there's obviously a lot of space and the frunk would fit in, but I gotta check with them if it has something to do with like prototype stage or something. But I mean, yeah, there's massive amounts of space in there, and yeah, but we just have clear view to the high voltage system. Interesting. Now to the trunk or the boot, ranging from 550 liters to 1,440 liters. The width here, 1.40 meters. That's good between the wheel arches. And the normal length is 85 centimeters or 33 inches. And the interesting thing now is here, this is like a cover. It's actually also well built. I mean, it's not too high overall, but what you can actually... Okay. what you can actually do is, here, this whole thing, first of all, underneath, for a charging cable, not too much space, and there's no frunk, so did we always show the frunk, Michelle, when you edit it? I hope not, otherwise I would spoil something now. So better edit the front before this, okay? Yeah, thank you. So here we can put this a little bit lower, then you have a little bit more space. This is possible over the 2/3, 1/3 split, so this could also be folded. Overall I think you will get along. Towing capacity, by the way, maximum 1.3 tons. So yeah, I mean, at least something, right? Welcome, sport mode. Let's accelerate it out. That's 90 kilometers an hour. Whoa, interesting. Yeah, you always have to be prepared for something weird to happen on the road, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the acceleration figure is not that impressive, not at all. But still, for most cases, it will be okay. We start here with the agile driving part in the sport mode. Steering could have a little bit more feedback, I feel. And also, I would need it to be a little bit more progressive, that, more is being done. So that's a little bit of a wobbly feeling from the wheels. You don't have, let's say, a direct sporty feeling for that vehicle. It's not so much fun to drive it, so it doesn't have a big sporty aspect, not at all. Suspension is also set on a rather soft tone, so for all the sporty purposes and so on, yeah, that's probably not keeping up with basically all of the competitors. I would actually say that this is probably the least sporty EV I have driven so far. So yeah, sportiness, driving fun, yeah, not really something. But that doesn't need to be super bad. If driving fun and sportiness is not your focus, maybe you don't care. But then again, this car is also good for other things. 50 to 80, let's go. Plop, that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's decently quick. Of course, the 0 to 100 kilometer figure is not that impressive. It's actually just under 10 seconds for both versions, small or the bigger battery. But still, the electric vehicles, they have always instant torque. This here, front-wheel drive only. It's also a difference to the Seal sedan concept, where you have rear-wheel drive, and optionally that performance all-wheel drive version. But here then front-wheel drive only, tuned to, let's say, a little bit more low cost. But still, I think the acceleration is fine. But you cannot compare it to any performance figure SUVs. From the first driving impression, you really have to say solid, period. Very solid. Here driving around 80 kilometers an hour, so like 50 miles an hour, and it's really very silent. I have to say, I feel it's maybe even more silent than in the BYD Seal sedan. This one here being the Seal U. Wow, I mean, it's quite astonishing. So it is positioned more like as an affordable, compact SUV, and as I said earlier, as a Tesla Model Y competitor. But it feels astonishingly refined considering that price. So yeah, that's really the first thing. It's extreme. What do you think, Michelle? Well, he has headphones on, so that's it's maybe a little bit cheating, but surprisingly sophisticated. I would call it that way. Soft touch here at the instant of the doors. Also here the vegan materials, seats and steering wheel feel good. And visibility, well, to the rear it's a little bit limited, because you have this really tiny window. To the side, also the pillars are pretty thick, so it's not the best overview, so to speak. So the design always takes a toll for that, definitely. But here now, for example, stuck in traffic, you still feel very relaxed because of the noise insulation. Just been to the sport mode. Here you can also pick then, for example, normal eco mode, even a so-called snowfield mode. So this indeed changes the power output of the vehicle. Asked the experts about that before. And you can also play with the regeneration. You either have standard or high. In standard recuperation, hardly anything is happening, maybe like slight deceleration. But then you can switch to the high, and that's accelerating then here when it comes to the recuperation. A little bit more notable, but not super strong. So they don't set it on a strong one-pedal driving feeling as Tesla does, but you can always here recuperate or regenerate energy with the brake pedal, of course. You hit the brake and then you see that you get in this charge region here in these digital instruments. Steering feel here, you have hardly any dead zone area or something, so the commands are being transported, steering wheel to the road, very well. 19-inch wheels on there, it's always that choice actually, and so far the road is quite well done. There's not much rolling noise, and then see it's a lane change here. Yeah, when I use the steering wheel here, you see that the car shakes up a little bit, but not in an unpleasant way. You feel that the suspension is more set on a comfortable trim, which is actually fine because we have so many new electric vehicles which have incredibly stiff suspension mated to extremely large wheels, and then you have like bop, 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 bop over every small bump, and you ask yourself like, has anyone ever test driven these vehicles? So this, especially from the known manufacturers, they kind of put then the same things in the vehicle, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, what do? We have to make the suspension stiffer because to cope with the weight and so on. I think that's the wrong choice. You can't make all EVs just stiff and sporty, because people also want to drive straight and feel comfortable. This year, by the way, these city motorways in the Lisbon area, and then you have the football stadiums here, both of the famous 2 Lisbon football clubs. Michel, question for you today. The red stadium, which one is it?
Estadio da Luz in Vika.
Very good, Michel. He's football expert or soccer expert. And the Greens, yeah. He's both American football and German soccer expert, actually. And then we'll soon have the Green Stadium, which is...
I forgot the name,
this
actually.
Sporting.
It's Sporting, I forgot the name.
Yeah. I mean, that was easy because there's only one left. Yeah, okay. So best greetings also to all our Portuguese viewers. We have a great fan base, actually, also in Portugal. And they're always really happy when we're visiting Portugal and filming, around the area. Systems here, blind spot monitor. When I set the turning indicator, it's also flashing. So that is working. Then we can set the adaptive cruise control. This, by the way, is Google Maps and Apple CarPlay, large, very visible to see. So we set it here on the steering wheel, and we can also control the speed. So we set it first here, and then, for example, now adjust the speed upward and downward. So keeping the distance to the car in front of us as well. We can also set the distance I want to have. And then let's see, I can also activate or deactivate here with the left thumb the active lane keeping assist. Let's see how smooth it actually reacts. So far, actually, good job. Also not too intrusive or something. And what I really like is that they have a real button to activate or deactivate it. Maybe it is hold steering wheel. It's no capacitive sensor. I have to apply some slight movement to it. So that is not on the highest level of sophistication, I would say. This is, by the way, the speed warning chime now because I was a couple of kilometers over the speed limit just shortly. Now it's 80 again. But this is also very interesting. So I would say here, assistance systems wise, also solid, and especially because I can activate and deactivate it so easily, so quickly. And that is also an advantage in comparison to Tesla, where we have everything just in the screen and there are basically no hard buttons left anymore. And for me, as a car enthusiast, I still want to have a real interaction with the vehicle. I want to press and turn things in the vehicle and not always do everything in the screen. It's also a safety thing, especially controlling the car while driving. It's just easier when I have a real knob for that. So I would say then the lane keeping assist could be maybe a little bit better, but still already good. And maybe what you did not hear is the most interesting thing about this vehicle now. Because when you have watched our BYD Seal Sedan episode, the thing is you felt like being a beta tester. And everything was bleeping, blimping, strange sounds from the vehicle, not really calibrated for the European roads, and so on and so on. And now actually they have improved that a lot. So you felt that not only from the noise insulation it was quite silent in here, there are hardly any annoying sounds. There's no hotkey to deactivate this new EU law where you always have this 3 chime when you go over the speed limit. It's not possible, you have to go deep in the menu. But they tuned down the sound, it's not as loud as before, and also other, like, let's just say, bug messages. Just, erase these. So I'm really happy with the steps forward they did, because in the Seal sedan was a good vehicle hardware-wise, but I didn't feel like buying one. First of all, that one has animal skin seats, so I would rather take the Model 3 in that case. But here now you don't feel so much that you're a better Tesla anymore, and that's a really good thing. They have to do that. So they can, of course, always work on these software things, but the question is if they really do it, and also in which tempo actually. But here, big software improvement here in the Seal U if you compare it to the Seal sedan. I think the naming is definitely a little bit misleading, because platform-wise they don't have so much in common here, the Seal U and the Seal sedan. But they probably also wanted to use that name and say, like, hey, this is our sedan for that segment and this is our SUV for that segment. Like Tesla Model 3 for the sedan and Tesla Model Y then here for the SUV. Yeah, here, for example, and then, steering was interfering a little bit. The car didn't really know what I was doing. You have to say that it still does a little bit more beeping noise than, for example, a German vehicle. However, if we compare it to like recent Hyundai and Kia, also especially the EVs, they also have a massive beeping problem. Maybe you remember the Kia EV9 ride. In the US it's better because you don't have so many regulations that require a beep, but especially in European versions it has become tough to buy new vehicles and not get all the way warning chimes and so on. So that's not a trend I really fancy. At the end of this driving part, we'll also talk more about the efficiency figures, and that also then calculates the real-world range of this vehicle. But I'm really convinced of this pretty smooth ride of that one. So, wow, it is a very smooth and comfortable car. The vegan seats are very comfortable, upright seating position, visibility to the front is good. Then the noise insulation and is really good comfort from. That's interesting. An ID bus transformed to like a traffic warning vehicle. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, electrification happening here. We can also drive a little bit quicker here now. Now the speed limit is maximum 120 kilometers an hour. Let's see if we can drive a little bit quicker. Now at about 100. Brake feel also actually quite decent. All the way recuperation and recharging. So it's not too many things I can find with this vehicle to criticize. And that's, of course, always a very, very good sign. I don't want to overtake on the right. Sorry about that. Slow down a little bit. That looks so cool from the ID bus there, right? And when you can then activate like some massive warning sign that is running through there, then yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's test it here at higher speeds once again with the active lane keeping assist. Let's see how that one performs. So let's say to 120 and see what we can do here now. Yeah, maybe sometimes a little bit too hectic. Oh, there's a speed camera facing backwards. Always a very tricky thing. So it's overall good, I would say, the lane keeping assist, but not excellent. Let's take it or leave it in that way. But still, already on the motorway here, it makes a very good performance. It's maybe not the one that has like the best driving agility or something, but all these EVs have a low center of gravity because the battery is put in the bottom of the vehicle, and that's always giving you somewhat quite good control. Let's do lane change right here one more time. Yeah, maybe you see it here on camera. So I'm always expecting a little bit more wheel movement concerning, how I turn the steering wheel. That would be something I would still be wishing for. Let's see if we can adjust it also without crashing or something. So here, without knowing it, yeah, that's the thing. And always some things you have to definitely preset before. It's not that you get in this vehicle and then it's like, I'll do that instantly. Vehicle settings here. Now, okay, Michelle's already sleeping, so he can't help me. But that's also a good sign. So It seems to be a pretty relaxing vehicle, you know. So steering assist mode, sport and comfort. Maybe. Yeah. So sport gives a little bit more feedback. And comfort is a little bit softer actually, but what I do feel from the, you know, the only thing that's a little bit strange here, when I do like this, it feels a little bit that, you know, as if the tires would have low pressure, you know, it's kind of like a little bit swimming on the road. That's maybe the only thing that doesn't feel that precise and good. But then again, the suspension is, you know, rather soft and good in that respect. Now hopping back to the CarPlay and the GPS. Yeah, you're doing a lot of things in the infotainment system around here, definitely. So I think now we can also drive a little bit quicker, see how the car performs there. And we also have a good average of different kind of speeds also for the final consumption and so on. We also take a long-term average. 120 kilometers an hour still performs very well. Not too intrusive as for the speed warning that would actually come. Wow, yeah, such a smooth ride, really well done. So we could score including acceleration, however, then again, good mild temperatures, so ideal conditions for electric vehicles. We could score some 18 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. That's 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. And when we take the big battery, which we have here today, the 87 kilowatt hour net battery, we get around 480 kilometers of real world range in good summertime conditions, so almost 300 miles of range, and that's of course very good. So although the CD value is pretty bad, good efficiency figures. So the only thing is when you go really quick, then probably the consumption will go very, very high. 175 kilometers an hour or around 115 miles per hour is the top speed, by the way, in that respect. Well, and then the question is, of course, could it stop the success of the Tesla Model Y? How good is it really? Well, design-wise, I mean, I think it's well done, rather subtle in design, but I think design-wise it's just, yeah, matter of preference. The interior build quality is top-notch. It's really excellent. It's a premium interior build quality, animal-free materials at the highest quality. So that is super well done. And also the user interface is way better than with the Tesla Model Y. Here we still have a classic car interface. We can turn things, we can press things. They resonate well, they resonate with the quality. The car is easier to access, easier to control. So that is definitely a big plus for here the BYD Seal U. However, the recharging figures, way better with the Tesla Model Y, of course. And also, if you want to drive sporty, if you want to have driving fun, this is not the vehicle for you. It is, kind of, wobbly when you really attack it and so on. So Tesla Model Y would be way sportier and way more fun. Then again, this soft suspension is good for running straight, long, very calm and so on. So if you do not care about sportiness, then of course the rather soft suspension makes sense. Yeah, and then the overall verdict is, of course, in some of the EV facts, it cannot really catch up to the Tesla Model Y, not in the sportiness. Then again, efficiency is good and also the comfort is good. So then the question is, what is actually more important to you? Price-wise, they are also meanwhile very comparable. So yes, even though it cannot catch up to Tesla Model Y in some aspects, in other aspects it's even better. So it is indeed a very, very serious competitor also, of course, for all the other brands. So not all of the Chinese brands that are coming to Europe will succeed. Some of them will die again, will go away. They won't make all profitable business. Not all of them. BYD is definitely here to stay. We can already say that. They have so much, money power already. They are selling so many vehicles and they will also sell vehicles in Europe. I'm quite certain of that. What do you think? Tell me your comments right there about BYD in general, and especially here Seal U or Tesla Model Y. Which one would you go for? And tell me why.